So the topic of the class is Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek. Since we are going to be reading Parshas Pekudei this week, the last parsha in the Chumash, and the custom is that when the Chazan or the Baal Korah finishes reading the parsha, which is the last one in the Chumash, the entire congregation usually stands up actually and says Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek. You should be strong and be strengthened. So originally I was going to talk about siyum in general, the concept of making a siyum when you finish a book in Torah, because I didn't think that this topic itself would be able to last for an hour. I'm still not sure that it can, but we'll try, because it's actually an interesting topic that has quite a few sources and reasons. So many of the Sfarim of the Rishonim, right, the writings of the early commentaries on the Gemara, mention this custom. Let's start with Rav Alexander Zislin HaKoyen, who wrote a sefer called Aguda, commentary on Brachas. So it says in Tractate Brachas that there are four things that need chizuk, that need strengthening. First of all, the Torah. Second of all, good deeds, meaning to say the study of Torah and doing good deeds. And thirdly, prayer. And fourth is derech eretz, involvement in the world. And the Gemara gives the source for all of these. First of all, Hashem blessed Yehoshua soon after Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. And he said to him, Rak chazak ve'ematz mo'oid. Be strong and very courageous. Lishmar lases k'chol ha'torah asher tzivcha Moshe avdi. To guard and keep all of the Torah that Moshe, my servant, commanded. So chazak is referring to strengthening yourself in studying the Torah. And ematz is referring to strengthening yourself in good deeds. As far as prayer is concerned, the pasuk in Tehillim says, Kaveh el Hashem, chazak ve'ametz libecha, ve'kaveh el Hashem. In terms of prayer, a person has to strengthen their heart doubly and pray to Hashem. Right? Actually, the Gemara says that that verse is referring to a person who was not answered the first time. If you're not answered the first time, then strengthen yourself and daven with greater kavanah, greater intensity, and hopefully Hashem will answer you the next time. Finally, as far as the derech eretz, so there's a pasuk in Shmuel Beis, chapter 10, verse 12. And if I can just find it, take me 1 second. And this is when the king of Ammon passed away. His name was Nachash, and he had been a friend of David HaMelech. In fact, when David HaMelech's family were in danger, they ended up being killed out. Only one of his brothers escaped and was saved by Ammon, by Nachash, the king of Ammon. Anyway, when Nachash passed away and Hanun, his son, took over, David HaMelech sent people to wish him well because he was his friend and his ally. And Hanun did not have the attitude of his father, and he said, these guys are spying out our territory. And he shaved off half their beards, and he sent them back to David, basically rejecting his people completely. Sorry, cut off half their garments too. So send them back half shorn and half naked. So David HaMelech told told these messengers to stay in the city of Jericho until their beards grow back. It's interesting that he didn't even suggest that they shave off the other half. Wasn't done in those days. Yeah, everybody had a beard, so you're missing half. You stay there until it grows back. Anyway, realized that they had to do battle with Ammon, and Ammon realized they were in trouble as well. So Ammon hired Aram, 20,000 foot soldiers, and 1,000 from the king of Macha, and 12,000 from Ishtov. So we're talking about quite a formidable force. So David set Yoav, his general, and his army to deal with this threat. So when Yoav came, he realized that he was surrounded. He had Ammon on one side, and he had the Arameans on the other side, and things looked like it was going to be very tough. So he took his choicest men to fight Aram, and he left the rest of them with his brother Avishai to face Ammon. By Yomer, and he said, if Aram is stronger, then you'll help me with them. And if Ammon is stronger, I'll help you with them. Chazak Venit'chazek ba'aramenu uva'ad orei Elokeinu. Be strong and let us strengthen ourselves on behalf of our people and on behalf of the cities of Hashem. And Hashem will do what is good in his eyes. So this was a worldly matter. Derech Eretz, this was a battle. They were making strategy. And he was saying, be strong in your battle. So we see that you need strength in all of these areas. Well, they use it as an example for Derech Eretz, for the ways of the world. Battle is an example, but to accomplish things. Yeah, exactly. To follow through on good plans, basically. Good plans are good, but to follow through and make sure you succeed in them, you need strength. So the Maharal Miprag explains that in general, when it comes to Torah, so he explains that all of these things have opposition within this world. That's why you need strength. The Torah is trying to tame the wildness of the world. So you need strength to be able to follow the Torah's directive instead of the attitude of the world. And certainly to do good deeds, when we have a Yetzer Hara that tries to convince us against it, we need strength. Prayer is because, why are we praying? Besides the fact we want to communicate and be close to Hashem, perhaps we're praying because we need something. Now, if we didn't receive it yet, maybe we're not so deserving of it. So we're praying to Hashem to give it to us anyway, even if we're not so deserving of it. Well, if we're not so deserving of it, then there are certainly angels, prosecuting angels, mekatragim, who question and say to Hashem, why should he get it? He doesn't really deserve it, and so on and so forth. So we need strength to be able to pray despite those mekatragim, to have successful prayer. And finally, derech eretz, the way of the world, is when you're trying to act according to seichel, according to logic, according to intellect, when the world does not necessarily, make itself, it's not so obvious that you should be doing things in that intellectual way. Sometimes your heart pulls you in a different direction. You're in a battle, so your mind tells you this is what you got to do, but sometimes you're in a spot, and it's not so easy to rule over your emotions with your mind. And the same thing with business decisions. You have to, hold strong to make the right decision, the correct decision according to your intellect. So these are all things that need strength. So the Aguda, as I mentioned, commenting on this piece in the Talmud, says that it is based on this concept that the Chazan, calls it a Chazan, but he means the Baal Korah, he means the one who is reading the Torah, when he finishes reading a Chumash, says Chazak, should be strong. because Torah needs strength. You learn Torah, you need strength to be able to implement that learning. The Pri Chadash, one of the commentaries in the Shulchan Aruch, says that along a similar vein, he says that the Torah is called Tushia. Torah weakens a person. So when you study Torah, we need to give you a blessing for strength, that you should not be weakened by the Torah. Okay. Now, also alluding to the verse we said from Yehoshua, we have another early source for the custom. And this comes from the Orchos Chaim, which was written by Rav Osher ben Yaakov HaKoyen, not to be confused by the Orchos Chaim by Rav Osher ben Yechiel. Both of them were great rabbis from from Spain, but more or less around the same time. But the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh, that's Rabbeinu Osher ben Yechiel, is a Musar book, a book of good behavior and good advice. And the Orchos Chaim of Rabbeinu Osher ben Yaakov HaKoyen, who started in Spain but ended up in Mallorca, which is a little island in the Mediterranean that's considered part of Spain. So that's halacha. And it's interesting, there's a sefer also written by one of the Rishonim whose authorship is not known, called Kolboy. And that book is very linked to the sefer Orchos Chaim. Some say that it is like a kitzer of Orchos Chaim. It's like a short version of Orchos Chaim. And some say that it's actually the notes of the author that he jotted down for himself before he wrote the Orchos Chaim. Anyway, so the Orchos Chaim writes, and this is a sefer that's quoted very often by the Beis Yosef, right, in his commentary on the Torah. The Orchos Chaim quotes the Medrash. The Medrash says that the first time Hashem saw Yehoshua, I shouldn't say saw, Hashem saw Yehoshua all the time. The first time Hashem appeared to Yehoshua after the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu, and we quoted some of the verses that he said to him just before. So that time, Yehoshua was in the middle of studying the book of Mishnah Torah, the book of Devarim. And that was apparently Yehoshua's favorite book. That was the book that he studied all the time. Why Devarim? So it's actually brought in the Yerushalmi, the Talmud Yerushalmi. Depending on how you interpret the Yerushalmi is very much open to interpretation and different versions of it and so on and so forth. But according to one of the interpretations of the Yerushalmi, end of the second chapter of Sanhedrin, the mitzvah for a king to write a Sefer Torah is specifically referring to Chumash Devarim. Doesn't have to have all 5 books. He should write this Sefer, meaning to say the Sefer of Devarim, right? And that's what he has to keep with him. Anyway, so Yehoshua had the book of Devarim with him at all times, and he was busy learning it when Hashem appeared to him, and Hashem gave him a bracha when he finished the learning, and he said, Chazak ve'ematz, like we just quoted. You learned, excellent. You should strengthen yourself and be strong in your learning. And he continued, Lo yomer sefer haTorah hazeh mipicha v'agisi b'yom v'layla. The Torah that you're learning, you shouldn't stop learning it. You should delve into it day and night. You should guard it and keep everything that's written in it. Then you will be successful on your path and you will prosper. So Orchos Chaim says that it's based on this, that when somebody finishes their aliyah, he doesn't say it about finishing a chumash. He says when somebody finishes their aliyah, based on that, people say to them, Chazak ve'ematz. Just like Hashem saw Yehoshua studying. He said, Chazak ve'amatz, excellent, keep it up, be strong. So when somebody gets an aliyah, he finishes aliyah, people bless him. And this is actually the Sephardic custom. So they say Chazaku Baruch, and he responds with Chazak ve'amatz. That's what it says in the Kaf HaChaim. That's more or less the same thing, just a little different. The Ashkenazim say more or less the same concept. Yeyasher koichacha, your strength should be firm. More or less the same idea, giving a blessing. But he does add, this is the custom, he says, in France. Custom in Spain, he says, is to say this same concept, chazak ve'ematz. I mean, we don't say chazak ve'ematz, but that same concept, to say it upon the completion of the Torah. Apparently, he's talking about Simchas Torah. So far we have two sources. One says to say it at the end of every Chumash, right? That's the Aguda. One says to say it at the end of every Aliyah, and then within the second source, perhaps specifically at the end of the entire 5 books of Moshe on Simchas Torah. So the Avudraham, who wrote a very important book because it follows the daily rituals and the Siddur and explains all the different aspects of the Siddur and why we say what, when we say it, and so on and so forth. Also from Spain, 14th century. So he quotes this custom to say Chazak ve'ematz. He mentions to say it at the end of a Chumash specifically. He says that Hashem blessed Yehoshua when Yehoshua finished the Chumash. Just at that moment, Yehoshua finished the Chumash, and that's when Hashem blessed him. And the idea is that the blessing is, like we said, that the Torah shouldn't leave from us. So you finished learning it, okay, you should continue learning it. Don't stop learning it. And here we have an interpretation given by the Maharam Mintz. Maharam Mintz is Reb Moshe Halevi ben Isaac of Mintz in Germany. So he was asked a question from the city of Worms. What happened is, it was Parshas Vayakel Bakudei, and the shul was full, as usual, and the first 6 aliyahs went fine, no problem. Came for the 7th aliyah, and that's Chazak, and there was a fight in shul. Who should get Chazak? The fight lasted 2 hours. Imagine that. I don't think it was a physical fight, not that I know of. And the people had enough. They all left the shul with the exception of 4 people. I imagine it was the 2 that were fighting, the Baal Koira and the Gabbai. I guess even the Rav left. I'm just guessing. I don't know. They all left the shul, and they went to one of the side rooms, and they took a different sefer, and they had the 7th aliyah, and they gave somebody else Chazak. And that was it. During the week, they sent a question to the Maharam Mintz, not to be confused, by the way, with the Mahari Mintz, who was his first cousin. Anyway, the Maharam Mintz was asked about this question. The question was, since in the main shul, they didn't finish the Parsha, and even though they finished in the side shul, but maybe they should have to repeat it anyway, because they didn't finish with the same Sefer Torah. So it was like a disgrace that they left one Sefer and opened up a different Sefer. And it was in a different room, and not everybody heard it. So maybe they should repeat it. You can't just repeat part of a Parsha. If you're repeating the Parsha, you have to repeat the whole thing. Now, what's the halacha? If a synagogue missed an entire Parsha, for whatever reason, they didn't have a minyan, or whatever happened, they missed a Parsha. The halacha is that you read it the next week. You have a double parsha. So here was the question.
Does that mean if for Hashem and Kippur they go to a different shul, they have to do that the same thing?
What do you mean?
You said the community finished it just in a different shul.
No, this was a question. This was an answer.
Oh,
This was an answer.
oh,
The answer is different.
People who didn't hear.
No, there were
They're
four
not- they
people
went-
who didn't hear it, and the rest heard it in a different room.
No, but you said if a community actually misses out.
Yeah.
So if everyone goes, say for many communities for Shana.
Yeah. No, I mean the kehila. I don't mean the empty building. I'm talking about a kehila doesn't have, for some reason.
They didn't hear it.
They didn't hear it. There was they didn't have a sefer Torah.
They went to other shuls.
Yeah. No. They didn't. There was the community didn't hear it. Let's put it that way. I don't know what the case was, but it happened. So this was the question that they asked. Perhaps they should read 3 parshiyas the next week: Vayakel, Pekudei, and Vayikra. So first of all, he starts off and he says, "Listen, we have never heard of 3 parshiyas. No such thing. 2, yes. 3, no." By the way, as far as I understand, if you have to do this, if you have to read 2 because you missed one, the way it works is instead of normally when we have a parsha, actually from his response, maybe it's not like that, but I know that they do this in Israel, for example. People who come from Chutz La'aretz, where like this year, for example, Pesach starts on Shabbos, finishes on Shabbos, but if you're in Israel, it finishes on Friday because it's only 7 days. So they read the next parsha already. Then the yeshiva bachim who went home for Pesach come back, and they're already reading the next parsha. They missed an entire parsha. So what they do is they make a minyan, and they read the parsha that they missed in one aliyah, together with the first aliyah of the next parsha. That's the aliyah's kohen. The kohen gets the entire parsha's whatever it is, Shmini, and then the first aliyah of Tazria, for example.
We spent the next 2 months making our own mini.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we caught up.
Oh, that's what we did. In Migdal, that's what we did. We got a different sack.
Gotta do it in Shabbat.
On Shabbos, only on Shabbos. You cannot add to the Torah reading of Monday or Thursday. It's fixed. Whatever it is, it is.
Or sometimes when you read the Torah on Shabbos and you find a problem that they have to read from another, they have to read on Torah.
Yeah, but that's on the same day. That's on the same day.
Same day, yeah.
You were talking about the next week.
They're talking about the same day they went to the next room. That's all.
Right.
They still heard it. They still.
Yep. Yeah, but there was nothing wrong with there was something wrong with the Sefer. Here, there was nothing wrong with the Sefer. So, but that was part of the question. Anyway, he says, no matter what happens, we've never heard ever of doing 3 parshiyas, which, by the way, has a very practical application, which means, and this is brought in halacha, that if for some reason you missed a double parsha, you cannot make it up the next week because you cannot do 3. Or if you missed 1 parsha and the next week is a double parsha, again, you can't make it up because you cannot do 3. Maharamin says, we've never heard of 3. Sorry, maximum 2.
The fact that you have certain parshiot that are read together,
Yeah.
not all of them.
Yeah.
The fact that they get read together, it's not like one.
It's a little bit like 1, yeah.
So if it's like one, why cannot?
No, because it's 2 that became 1. It's not like 1 that's 1. We join 2 together, but we don't join 3 together.
Yeah, that's the calendar.
In general, maybe it's just too much. Tircha de tzibura. It's too much of a bother for the community, and we don't do 3.
What do you read the Is that a half a parsha? Is that
Yeah, that's not a parsha. That's a haftarah. That's different. I mean, we always have haftarahs.
no? That's early.
A maftir. I'm saying it's a maftir. It's just a longer maftir.
So basically, I said
Yeah,
before,
they call it
if you
parsha
have a
holiday.
mistake and then you didn't read from the Torah, and then he only had 1 Torah, which like should only put 1 Torah, and then you'd have to wait till it's after Shabbos and read the 2 the next week.
Actually, if you discover a mistake in the middle of a reading and you only have one. So the Maharalmi Prague holds you can finish with that one, even though it has a mistake. Shouldn't take it out in the first place, but if it's already out and you find a mistake and nothing else, you can finish the reading, the 7 aliyahs. That's the Maharalmi Prague holds. Anyway,
If you didn't take it out, then you'd have to.
if you didn't take it out, then you would have this. Then this is what you would do exactly. So that's first of all, says the Maharam Mintz. Second of all, he says there's no problem here. Almost everybody heard it. The fact that they went to a different room, I mean, what's the difference? The fact that they used a different sefer, okay, maybe it's not the best, because when you have a kosher sefer and you take it another sefer, it looks like an insult to the sefer. But that's all in the past. Taking out a different sefer now doesn't rectify what was done then, what was done wrong then. And in any case, he says it was clear to everybody at the time that the reason they took out another sefer is not because of anything wrong with the Sefer Torah, but because of this argument. So it didn't really call any judgment onto the Sefer Torah itself. So that's second of all. Third of all, he says there's a technical problem here. The technical problem is that whenever we read more than one parsha, we always join them together. You were saying we make them into one. We always join them together. We never read them like separate parshas. How do we join them together? We make sure that the fourth aliyah, which is the one that bridges them, actually bridges them. That means he reads part of the first and part of the second. We never finish at the end of the first as if that's the end. We always join them together. So he says we have a problem over here. How are you going to join Pekudei and Vayikra? Pekudei and Vayikra are in different chumashim. And there's 4 empty lines in the Torah between them to indicate that they're different. How can you just put them together like that? Which is another point, by the way, that's also brought in halacha. That if for some reason you missed Vayechi, or Pekudei, or Bechukoisai, or Masei, I don't know how you'd miss that, but whatever, if you missed the last reading of a chumash, you cannot make it up the next week. Because how are you going to join 2 parshas from different chumashim in one aliyah? They're different chumashim, they're like different books. You can't put them together as one. That's true, but we don't read exactly. We don't do the whole bereshis. We don't do the whole bereshis. We don't join it into one.
Why if you read 2 whole parshas, you need to join them, and if you read parts of another parsha, you don't have to join them? What's the logic to differentiate?
I mean, I'm just making it up because I didn't see. The Maram doesn't really go into why that's the custom. But I'm imagining that we join them together to clarify that we're not finished the reading. We want to show that it's together, that we're reading it together. We don't want it to look like we read one and the second one is just like an appendage. We want it to be clear that it's part of the essential reading. So that's if it's a whole parsha. If it's just an aliyah, so it's actually not the main reading. It actually is something extra. For example, Bereshis, what's it about? It's to show that we're not finished, or we're running to start again, because we're never finished learning. So it actually is, kind of not the main reading. It's another aliyah, but when it is the main reading, we want it to be joined. That's what it would seem. So the point is, another problem, he says, technically, you have to interrupt and say Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek when you finish a chumash, as is our custom. How are you going to do that in the middle of an aliyah? Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, and then continue reading? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And now that he mentions Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, here's what's relevant for our shir. He goes into this this custom. What is the custom about that we say Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek? So he says, first of all, it's similar to the custom that when a person makes a siyum, he says, Hadran Allah, we will return to you. Because he wants to show that it's not like, when you graduate school, oh, I'm finished. I don't have to open my math book ever again. I'm done with algebra and trigonometry. What do I need this for? I'm done. It's not like that. Torah is forever. Torah is for life. And you learned it once, and we'll learn it again and 1,000 times, and we'll still have more to learn. So we're going to go back. So that's the idea. Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek. We're going to strengthen ourselves in Torah. We're not going to stop learning. That's number one. And number two, he says it's similar to the blessing that we give a chazan when he finishes davening. When a chazan finishes davening for the Amud, so what do you say to him? Yasher koyach. Exactly. What does that Yasher koyach mean? Yasher koyach means good job. Now you should merit to do more mitzvahs. You did. You should have strength to do more. You did one. Keep on going. So the same thing here. It's not necessarily about returning to this chumash. It's about in general. You did a nice thing. You finished learning a chumash. Good. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. In other words. So in the notes of the Maharam Mintz, just as a side point, he brings in the concept of saying Yasher Koyach to a chazan. And he says that according to one reading of the Yerushalmi, it's actually mentioned in the Yerushalmi, mentioned in the Talmud Yerushalmi, in the Jerusalem Talmud, that when a person finishes davening, you say something like Yasher Koyach. Not exactly, but something like it. It says in the Yerushalmi as follows. It says, should look for the class now. It says, if a person prays, if a person davens, and he is not answered, he has to fast. It's a sad day. He davened and he wasn't answered. It's a sad day. He doesn't literally have to fast, but it's worthy of a fast.
Does that mean he's a problem that's bothering him, or a person who davens to win the lottery and doesn't win?
It sounds like a problem. I mean, a person who davens stam, why not? You may as well throw it out there. It's one thing, but a person who davens a serious thing and he needs it and he doesn't get answered, it's not a good sign. It means Hashem judged him, a little bit non-favorable. How do we see this? The Gemara says. The Gemara says because the first 19 Psalms correspond to the 19 blessings of the Amidah. Right? They used to have 18 blessings in the Amidah. And then they added a 19th. So the first 19 Psalms of Tehillim used to be 18. The Gemara says, Ashrei Ha'ish and Lama Rakshu used to be one. Aleph and Beis used to be one. There's no Lam Natseach in the beginning of Beis. You notice that? There's no Ledavid, there's no Mizmar, just Lama Rakshu Goyim, just like that. So it used to be one. The Gemara says this. I'm not making it up. I'm sorry? No, this is the Gemara Bavli. I mean, the Yerushalmi says about Yancha. But the Bavli says that they used to be one. And it was broken up when they added a 19th. So they wanted the 19th to continue responding to the prayer, to the blessings of the Amidah, so they broke up 1 and 2 in Tehillim. Which actually calls into question the whole thing of the years. You say Tehillim according to your number of years. What if they just, you were saying according to 1 year and then they just broke it up and then everybody's got to change. Anyway, whatever. I don't know when that custom started. Anyway, the point is that
This was after the Churban Vayashem.
yeah, I guess. So that's why we say you l'rotzon imre fi. Where does that come from? You l'rotzon imre fi v'eged libi lefenachem tzur v'goy ali. No, I don't remember why that is. Okay, forget it. Anyway, the Gemara says, Gemara Yerushalmi says, That's why the 20th chapter comes after the first 19, which starts with Yancha Hashem b'yom tzara. Hashem should answer you in a time of tzara, in a day of trouble. Because if you daven 19 prayers and 19 blessings and you weren't answered, it's a troubling day. You need Hashem's help. I wonder, maybe that's why we say Yancha, after Shemona Esrei.
What if
never
you
thought about
consider that the answer was not yet?
That's better than no.
I mean, it's no. It's like I asked you for this. I said no, but you can say not yet first, or your kid ask you for something. No, not yet. Finish your homework and
Right.
then you get it.
Yes.
So
Sometimes
you
it goes
didn't
that
say. What's that?
But sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah.
You have to go for years before you get, because based on the time.
Right.
Yes.
You didn't say no.
Yes.
You didn't say yes, but you say you want yes. You got to do your part.
Exactly.
So it's not. So it's the same story.
Right.
You ask for something, for whatever it is you may want,
Yes.
and it says no. You got to keep working on
Right.
that.
Yes. I mean, it says that. It says that in the
Maybe
Gemara.
you should be doing something different.
So why being so drastic and say, oh, you didn't get what you want? So
Right. I don't know if this applies to every prayer for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like you daven for some things that are not so urgent, maybe it's not so bad. Some things that you can get later is not so bad. But if it's something important that you need and you didn't get answered, it's not a good sign.
well, but the biggest problem that person has is the one that they have. Because it's true. It could be, that the chair is rocking. Could be, a big crisis.
Yes.
Was it the 10 rabbis in addition about, and they pray that they come down to you, went to the Shemayim, they ask for, you have to go back and take your faith. Sometimes that's the way it is.
Right. I'm not sure that he's saying that the fact that you didn't get what you want or need at that moment is the crisis. It seems more the fact that Hashem judged you and found you wanting and didn't find you deserving. That's the tzara. You know what I mean? The tzara that you have, the chair is rocking or whatever else, maybe it's a serious tzara. That's one thing. Maybe that's another thing. But it seems that he's discussing the fact that you were not answered, that Hashem chose not to answer you. That's not a good sign.
Fasting doesn't hurt everybody. Fasting, you put more take care of it.
I don't think you have to fast. It means it's deserving of a fast. It's a situation that's deserving of a fast.
But usually Hashem answers not immediately. Sometimes it takes about a week.
Right. Sometimes a week. Sometimes
Because that's what I
sometimes a millennia.
It takes about a week.
Maybe.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's not immediate.
Right. That's true.
Maybe you get something else you thought you wanted, or this is what you deserve, but maybe
Maybe he knows what's best. Maybe that's not the best thing
this
for
has
you.
happened to all of us, that you want something, you didn't get it, you're upset, or you're like heartbroken, and something else
Yes.
comes your way that is really good.
Yes.
I'm sure that has happened to everyone.
Yes.
So
I hear it. So the point is, the Yerushalmi says that for this reason, when you see your friend finishes davening, and I'm quoting this not directly from the Yerushalmi, because the Girsa we have in the Yerushalmi doesn't say this. It says when you see a teacher finish davening. So that seems like a special thing. But according to the Girsa of the Ravya, one of the Rishonim, so according to his version of the Yerushalmi, it says, when your friend finishes davening, you should say to him, Te'oser tfilasecha. May your prayers be answered. Because if the prayers are not answered, it's not a good sign. So you see him finish davening, you wish him that his prayers should be answered.
you finish always, you learn some feel.
Right. Right. That's for yourself. But the point is, you should also wish somebody else that their prayer should be answered. It's not clear, actually, in the Ravya if he means a chazan or everybody. Everybody wants the prayers answered, and even just stam a person, see them finishing davening. So you say that to them.
Everyone should go around with this.
Your friend. Choose your friends. So the point is that this is all part of the custom of saying Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, according to the Maharam Mintz. Okay, now let's discuss a little bit of the halacha that relates to this matter. The question is, we know that the community says Chazak, and we know that based on one of the first sources, I think it was the Aguda, that the Bal Koira says it. He specifically says the Chazan says it, which means the Bal Koira. What about the person getting the Aliyah? In the simple sense, the argument can be made that the blessing is to him. So why should he give himself a blessing? The other should bless him, and he should be quiet, and he should accept the blessing.
Didn't the person who got the original gift was the Bakar?
Yes. But now he is,
Now,
the Balkoira is like his shliach to read it. It's like his aliyah, and the Balkoira reads it for him. I mean, there's different ways of understanding it, but let's just say. So that's the first argument. Maybe he shouldn't say it because it's not really appropriate for him to bless himself. The other argument can be made is that perhaps it is a hefsek, perhaps it's an interruption. When he is saying a bracha on the reading, how could he interrupt with a kind of I'm not going to say it's unnecessary blessing, but it's kind of it's a later custom. How does a later custom find its way into the middle of an aliyah to interrupt between the aliyah and the blessing on the aliyah? So actually, there are some opinions that say he should be quiet. He should just listen. However, the Chabad custom, and it's customary in some other communities as well, is that the person getting the aliyah should say Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek as well. So what is this based on? So I read an article that suggests that, first of all, it's an honor to the Torah. So it's not considered an interruption because you're honoring the Torah by pronouncing that you're not leaving it. You're going to strengthen yourself. And it reminds me of the custom that the Sephardim have, although I must admit I didn't look it up and find it in any sefer, but they have seen many Sephardim do it, which is before they say the bracha afterwards, they say, Emet Toratenu Hakdosha. Our holy Torah is true. How are they saying that before the bracha? Because they're honoring the Torah. So it's not an interruption. It's considered a part of the aliyah is to honor the Torah. And in an even more powerful way, the argument can be made that if he doesn't say it, if the other people say it and he doesn't say it, so that's disrespecting the Torah. Considering that what it means is, according to the Maharam Mintz, Hadran Allah, we're going to return to you. We're not graduating from Chumash Shemois and not coming back. No, we're coming back. We're going to learn it. We're going to keep it. So if everybody says to him, Chazak, Chazak, Venit'chazek, and he doesn't say it, maybe it looks like he's happy to get rid of it. They can be strong, but I'm done.
he said it himself.
Oh, that's the point. He says it to himself. Chazak, Chazak, Venit'chazek. He's blessing himself, which is Hadran Allah is also the same thing. You're blessing yourself. That you should be strong in your commitment to this. So therefore, to not do it would be disrespecting. So therefore, it is certainly appropriate. So there is a custom in terms of the actual text of this blessing. So a common custom, like we said, is Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, which is actually a paraphrasing of the verse that we said from Shmuel Beis. Chazak Venit'chazek ba'ad Ameinu. That's what Yoav said to his brother Avishai when they were facing this tough battle. So the point is that not everybody agrees that that is the correct wording of this blessing. The Chassam Sofer and others, the Al Yarabah, they were of the opinion that the correct wording is Chazak, Chazak, Chazak. 3 times Chazak, which is Gematria 345, which is the Gematria of Moshe. What does Moshe have to do with it? Well, of course, he wrote the Torah. But the 3 Chazaks, the commentaries say, I saw it quoted in the name of the Gala Amukas. We said before that the 4 things that need strengthening is Torah and Masim Tovim and Tefillah and Derech Eretz, right? Torah study and good deeds and prayer and the way of the world. So Moshe Rabbeinu was not really involved in Derech Eretz. He checked out before he fought wars, that's true, but more or less he was on the spiritual side. He never made it into Eretz Yisrael, which represents the more heavy involvement in the physical world. So because it's in honor of Moshe, we leave out the last Chazak, and we just put in the 3 Chazaks. That is the custom that some people have. But the common custom, as we mentioned, is Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, and that is perhaps the congregation blessing themselves. In other words, Chazak Chazak is to the person getting the Aliyah, and then Venit'chazek is we as a community should be strengthened. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Chazak.
Chazak.
When did you bring the kids in the last Aliyah to say Chazak? Is there anything that I just do it because it makes my parents happy, but is there any sort of...
I don't see why there's no problem with it. Is there something special? Is there something special about kids and that Aliyah? Is that your question?
Well, I mean, it's something special about that Aliyah B'chlal, actually being kids in front. When I do it, because that's what it's just, I guess,
Right.
the community wants.
Right. Interesting question. Well, if we understand that Chazak, that reciting this is a blessing to strengthen the Torah and to strengthen the observance of the Torah, so it's an opportunity for the children to be part of that blessing. So, I mean, every Aliyah is important, but here, in addition to an Aliyah, they're getting that blessing to strengthen themselves in the Torah.
Do you say that before or after you get the Aliyah?
You say it at the end of the last reading of the Parsha, of the final Parsha of the Chumash. At the last verse of that Parsha, the reader usually says it with a special tune. For example, at the end of the 5 books, I don't remember how Shemois finishes, but at the end of 5 books, it's Le'enei Kol Yisrael, and then everybody says Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, and then the person getting the Aliyah says it together with them, according to the Chabad custom, and then the one who is the Torah reader repeats it again, Chazak Chazak Venit'chazek, same tune, and then the blessing afterwards.
Then you said something else. To Yofer, what was the rest? You said something to Yofer, and then what was the rest of the blessing?
Te'aser tfilasecha. May your prayers be answered. That's Aramaic, though. That's not such a common expression today. No, now we just say Yasher Koyach, which means your strength should be firm. All right. Thank you for joining.